What's up, everyone, and welcome to another historic waterway here in Alabama. This particular site that we're going to be searching today for antique treasures is right in the middle of an old coal mining ghost town. So you never know what you're going to find. We're hoping for valuable antique glass, relics, and other items that were left behind well over a century ago. Let's go see what we can find. So we are making our way down to the creek's edge right now, and this is a spot that we don't come to but every couple of years. And this particular spot has produced a hutch, a few straight side cokes, some amazing debossed bricks, and quite a few other relics that are well over a century old from the coal miners. It looks like the water's going to be up just a little bit, but it's still visible. So let's get down here and hopefully not stand on a snake on the way down and see what we can find. So we've made it down here to the edge. You can see the visibility is not as bad as I thought it was going to be because we have had quite a bit of rain in the last few days. We're going to be walking upstream though to keep the cloud of silt behind us. Look right here. It's perfectly square. Probably a piece of tile. Yep. Pretty pink tile. We usually keep these pieces. Miranda says she's going to attempt making a mosaic out of them once we get enough. We've got about a half of a 5-gallon bucket so far, of all different shapes, sizes, and colors. So it'll be interesting to see what she comes up with. I'll give her that. She's very artistic. So I made it about 3 steps past that piece of tile and spotted this on the bottom. This is the side to a very early whiskey jug. It looks like it could have been a 2-gallon size. It would have been two-tone, and it is possible that this could have been actually stenciled. So if you're ever seeing pieces of jugs or crockery in the bottom, you know you're in a pretty good spot. So I saw a neck sticking out and I just kicked it out with my boot. Right there is a nice early corktop medicine, but I can't tell if it's going to be embossed. Slick on that side. It is embossed. Oh, it's just a Pine X. That's okay. That probably dates to about the 1920s. That's a good looking little bottle though. And again, beggars can't be choosers. But when you're finding corktop bottles that are over a century old, I don't think you can ever complain about that. So again, just a common Pine X, but still means that we're on the right trail. I believe this is going to be a twofer. Right here is a brick. I actually spotted it and was going to flip it over because, as mentioned, there's some good embossed bricks in here. But right in front of it, once I got down here, I could see the medicine. Let's look at the brick first, since that's what I spotted first. Oh yeah, that would have been a nice Graves Chemical #1 Behem, Alabama brick. I hate that one's broke. But let's see what the medicine is that's right in front of it. What do we got here? Oh, it's going to be a sours extract. There's some dark soil on that one right there. I think that probably came out of the bank recently. Most of the stuff that you see right here in the center has washed out within the last flood. That is a good find though. Again, a nice embossed corktop medicine. Probably dating to about the 1920s or the late teens. So I'm hoping you guys can see this, the swirl in the tire and how much material is moving around it. It's like a natural riffle in the creek. But right here on this side of the tire, there's something interesting sticking out. And I find quite a few of these in the ghost towns, though it's been a few months that we're around coal mining. Let's see if I can get it out without breaking it, because they are pretty flimsy. Look at that. An old carbide miner's lantern. Still has the original hook on it. It is missing the bowl down there. That is a fantastic find, guys. Now I've got about 6 or 7 of these so far that I've collected over the years that are worth keeping, and this is definitely one of them. So this would have been lit by a match, and I can't remember if the top had carbide in it or the bottom. One of them had carbide, one of them had water. At least that's if I'm remembering correctly. And this would have been hung on the front of a miner's hat as he went thousands of feet below the ground to dig for coal. So that's pretty cool after finding the miner's tags last week to finding the miner's lantern this week. And this one, I didn't have to have the metal detector. I was able to spot it by eye. So again, we've got 2 interesting things in this shot. The first of which is right here. First cell phone of the day. That one's definitely seen better days. The second one's right here. And I did just kind of fan around it real quick to make sure it looks whole. And so far, it does. I feel embossing on it, but it's going the wrong direction. Oh, look at that. Got a nice Liam Perrins. That is a good looking bottle right there, guys. Another cork top, all dating back to the 1920s so far. As mentioned, we did find a hutch in here. Check that out. He just found a hutch. I'll tell you why this is such a tough hutch. The way that top is, this is like a newer glass. This is one of the last hutches they made before they went to crown tops. And this glass is really similar to a root glass, and that top gets snapped off very, very easily.
So it's not as thick as all these other ones.
Yeah, it's not quite as thick. Oh, look at that stopper still in it and everything.
Isn't that cool?
But that's at Jefferson County, Inslee. Man, that's awesome, dude.
I know, and to be this far south from there, it's pretty awesome. But
yeah.
It's got that crack at the base.
Yeah, it got a little bit of a nick out of there. But to be honest with you, that's pretty good shape for one of these. That's a killer bottle, man. But it was one of the later hutches. So this is actually, makes sense to me to find 20 stuff, because I believe that the hutch that we found in here could date to about 1912. So we're within about 10 years of that. I'm finding good stuff in here. The problem is that the visibility is so bad. It's over 6 inches. I'm not able to find much. Right here, though, I do see a piece of jadeite. Miranda will love that to make some of her jewelry out of. So that's okay right there. We'll take that. But I think what we are going to do is probably move to another spot and see if I can find a place that has better visibility, or at least some more sunlight. Well, I hope you guys don't mind joining me for a scouting mission. We went from a spot that I knew there was antique bottles and river treasure to an area that I'm just assuming that there could be. On the banks of both sides of this creek, there are actually coke ovens. And with the coke ovens being there, that tells me that there should have been a ton of workers, and hopefully the workers came down to the creek to gather water, or they tossed their century-old soda bottles right here. At least that's what my imagination is telling me today. I do see a really nice seam in this bank up here on the right that we were walking towards, though, that I'm excited to see what's sticking out of it. Again, you just never know with these spots. Boots on the ground, that's the way to go. Check out those seams right there. A lot of times these seams are really, really important. And actually, look right down here. It's like I see the very first embossed piece of glass. Yep, and it was. What are you? Norfolk, Virginia. I believe that was a, ooh, dropped it. I believe that was a Virginia Dare piece right there. So like an old wine bottle. It was very decorative though. Could have said Garrett & Co. and possibly had an eagle embossed on it. And being on this side of the creek bank, I think it probably came out of that seam up there. Another good thick piece right here off of this bank. As mentioned, I always look for those seams, and usually good stuff washes out. This would have been a very nice soda bottle. I can see where it would have said Alla right there. Other than that, I'm not sure. I think this could have been a Hutchinson style bottle, which puts it pre-1912. I think this brick is stamped. I may be wrong. Try to rinse some of the mud off, but we can find out. Come on. It is stamped. I can see the bottom to a W right there, HW. But it's got some kind of like, I don't know if that's concrete or iron mixed to it. So that one's not going to display very well. There's another one out here, another one here, and here's a piece of glass. So again, these banks are just loaded, guys. Oftentimes as river treasure hunters, we get so focused on the water that we forget to look at the banks, and that's why I do a steady walk forward for about 10 steps, and then I turn sideways and look into the bank for stuff like that right there. Look at that. Oh golly. I'm gonna have to get out my little prong that I got in my backpack and see if I can dig this out. Y'all hang on one second. Look who came prepared today. All right, here we go. Looks like the top may be gone. If so, we're not gonna let it bother us, because again, we like to make whiskey glasses out of the broken soda bottles. I'm sorry, my camera works so bad. I did forget my tripod, so I guess I wasn't that prepared. Oh, what are you? I think you may just be an old beer. Let's make sure that you're not embossed with anything good, though. I thought that it was a soda, but the diameter looked pretty big. I'm gonna wipe it off with my waders. I know you guys love that. Yep, that was a turn of the century beer. So if that was up there, anything could be. We're talking hutches, we're talking about soda bottles, relics, all kinds of stuff. And I have a good 50 more yards of this seam, it looks like, before it disappears. Well, it looks like the coal miners and the coke oven people around here must like to drink, because I found the beer piece in the bank, and now I got a piece to a whiskey jug. And I don't think they would have been doing that on the clock. But I don't think OSHA was around that long ago either. The other cool part about searching these coal towns is the fossils. And I know you've seen us find quite a few over the last few months. That is a nice, what I want to call lapidodendron, and I'm sure that I probably butchered the name of that again. I can't keep up with these things, but that is a beautiful fossil right there, guys. So that is part of an old plant. Millions of years old, depending on how you believe. And look right next to it, and there is a modern crown brick. Crazy to think, but this would have came out of the bottom of the coal mine. So that's pretty neat, guys. That is pretty neat. This whole little bar, if I scoured it, I bet I could find quite a few fossils. She's a little rough around the edges, but there's one of those CO crown bricks from the coke ovens. And again, just a really cool piece of local history. There are entire brick clubs and brick meetups where people collect these things and they send them all over the place. And some of these can be quite valuable. The joys of scouting. The creek got deep, so I got on the bank to try to go around the deep spot. I haven't been able to find a way back down yet. Everything's been incredibly steep. But I did find the 1980s garbage dump. Seen about 50 Cabbage Patch Kids, the dolls, and tons of 80s beers. All must have been dumped off this bank right here to my right. But nothing old up here, which is kind of odd because the old stuff's been down in the creek bed. So it looks like I finally found a way back out of this mess up here. Not before finding an animal hole though. Looks like I don't know what dug this, but look, they dug a bottle out for us right there. Oh, it's just the bottom. That's old though, look at that. That would have been an old soda right there. You can see the circle slug plate right there, just a little bit. Right in the animal hole. That is wild, guys. Super wild. I don't know what that is. There's not enough there for me to be able to tell. But I do know this. It's at least a century old. It is already hot enough in Alabama that I had to stop and take off my waders. It is cooking. And yes, I know that I'm kind of crazy for wearing waders, but whenever you do not know a particular waterway and how polluted it is, I would highly recommend wearing something to protect you, because I have seen some terrible stuff in the water that I do not want on my skin if I can help it. With that being said, we've had a ton of people ask about my wife's jewelry and to see some of her jewelry and the making process and all of that good stuff. And so we're going to include that right now. Now this next part is highly technical. Not really. This is a rock tumbler tube from just a cheap rock tumbler from Harbor Freight. And the media that I'm going to use is dirt out of my garden. So I'm just going to take a little bit of dirt right here out of the garden, put about a 1/4 inch into the bottom, and that'll be plenty. And then we're going to go put some glass and some water in there, and I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the container of all of the glass that my wife just went through and broke that we found in the creek. And now we're going to dump it into the tumbler. Now the trick is you do not want to overfill it, because if you do, it doesn't allow it to roll around enough around the glass. So we're only going to fill it up to about halfway, something like that. And then we're going to let this thing run. So we are going to be tumbling the glass, but we're not going to be tumbling on this one. This one over here is where I tumble all of my whiskey glasses at. Over here is the jewelry tumbling. So those small tubes you saw all have whiskey glasses. These are ones that we were found that were broken. They've been upcycled and now they're just waiting on the final polish. Right here though is the jewelry that we're going to check back on in a few days, and hopefully it'll be good enough for Miranda to work with. All right, so this is what we just got out of this tube. This is 7 days with garden dirt. These are some pieces that we found in a video a week or two ago, and as you can see, they turned out really, really nice. These were all broken and then tumbled so that there's no sharp edges. They still got a little bit of wetness on them. I really love how these pieces of pottery turned out though. You can see how nice and rounded they are. 7 days with a little bit of garden dirt, and it works miracles on this stuff without a doubt.
side a little bit and then go straight down.
And here is some of those pieces after the work has been done to them. We had a lot of people requesting 925 sterling silver, so these over here are all sterling silver. It's pretty cool to think that these were bottles over 100 years ago, or pieces of plates and pottery, and people drank from them or used them for medicine or whatever they did, and now they have been upcycled into something that's beautiful and usable. But I think my wife's doing a really good job of matching the pieces up. You can see the colors look wonderful together. And actually, I think I'm more of a fan of the copper than I am the sterling silver. But that's just me. She's doing really good with the wire bending as well as the diamond drill to put the holes through the glass. So if y'all ever want something like this, it's always going to be listed in the eBay store. The link's going to be in the description as well as in the comments section. Hope y'all enjoyed this little bit of an informative video on how we do this. If you did, be sure to drop a comment below and let us know what you think. And be sure that you're subscribed so you can see us actually find this stuff in the coming weeks.